Hello everyone, it's Dmitro here, and today we'll talk about setting up of global search component and also bulk duplicate search in local Creatio environment. This question often is asked at support team. There are a lot of questions from our customers who are running Creatio locally, and if they are interested in running such components, then such video could be really helpful for you. So please look at it and let's start. So first of all, I need to tell you a couple of words about what we're talking about. So we are talking about Creatio local installation. Now you see it's installed locally. And we talk about the global search functionality, which is designed to be used here. So we can try to search something without do any settings. As you can see, global search service is not configured. So today I'll talk about this configuring, and also we will talk about bulk duplicate search configuring, which is close to this and requires global search service running. We talk about local installation, so we have a lot of technical details, and this task, I could say, is a bit challenging. So let's see how it will go. Of course, we need documentation at Academy, guides, setup and administration, on-site deployment, and such component as global search and bulk duplicate search, they are separate. Separate components could be installed optionally if you want. And now it's time for us to see how we can install global search and bulk duplicate search. Such components need special containerizing software. It's possible to install it using Kubernetes, or it's possible to install with Docker. My today example for you will include Docker-based examples. And if you will have questions, please put your questions into chat. My colleagues will be happy to assist you during the session. So let's start. And I need to explain some words about what I'm planning to do. So my plan is to show you how to install global search and duplicate search in a local Creatio environment using Docker, and there are some additional interesting facts. I plan to do all of it on Windows, on my current PC, and on one single PC, the same where my Creatio is locally installed. Of course, it will be a bit challenging from system resources point of view, and it should not be recommended as a straightforward example of doing the same at production. But this is for development purpose, where you have a limited number of PCs and you just want to check how it works. You want to get through all the settings, and you just need to see what this tool can do for you. So let's start from global search. And as you can see, it requires some specific settings. And I need to say that when I was preparing for today's session, I had so many unexpected, let's say, difficulties. So it definitely worthy for you to see all my path, and I plan to explain this for you. So you will see all possible differences, difficulties, and I will try to explain. So let's go straight to Docker documentation here, and how to install this. As you can see, documentation tells us about installing it on two servers. Server 1 for Elasticsearch, it's one of the required components. It's actual search engine with a lot of settings. And another server is actually for Creatio made global search service. It's possible to combine them and to run at one machine in one Docker. So I plan to do this. And let me explain how we can do this. And if everything goes well, it will not take too much time. But for me, when I was preparing it, it took me several days to pass through all obstacles, and I plan to explain this for you. So let's go. You see, we have deployment of Elasticsearch first. We have deployment next set of services for global search service, but you should not be afraid of such big number of different services. Now you will see how it can be installed. And you see that we have to download installation files for it. And this installation file is, I already downloaded it. So let me show you here. So we have two installation files. One is for, okay, let me try to download this, version 4.017. So this one version is for Elasticsearch and global search service, and another file will be for duplicate search. So we have to download such files, and here is general procedure of how we will do this. As you can see, originally it was recommended to run everything on Linux using Docker for Linux, install Docker Compose and other things. I'm planning to do all of this for you at Windows. So on Windows using Docker Desktop. So let's start and let's go step by step. First step is install Docker. In my case, for Windows, I'm running Docker Desktop. Downloaded its official installer. I need a local administrator privilege to install it. It takes less than a minute to install it, and also it will modify your Windows settings, so Windows subsystem for Linux. You will need to restart your PC after doing this, but in general it's trouble-free. So finally, when you do this, I will not show this for you because it will be hard to broadcast when we do this type of operation like restarting your PC. So you will see something like this. This is Docker Desktop Personal. It's a graphical user interface for Docker for Windows, and luckily it already includes Docker Compose. So the next step which we need is utility Docker Compose. We already have it inside of Docker thanks to Docker Desktop developers. I need to tell you a couple of words what Docker is and why we need it. So this is a containerizing software, and it manages two major topics, image and container. So you should understand that image is kind of a software. So it's like a program with a lot of settings inside of it. As you can see, I already downloaded some image because it takes a lot of megabytes and a lot of time to download this. And all the procedure, which I plan to show for you, will be okay if you have nothing at the beginning. So I plan to show you all the commands that will work for you. So Docker has images, and image is a software with a lot of settings, and container. Container is an instance of running software inside of Docker, and it has its own advantages because container may maintain some resources. It can communicate with outer world with use of ports, use of web services, and the main reason why we run containerizing environment is possibility to separately and isolatedly run different programs like different servers, different databases, different engines, and they can communicate to each other and perform certain complex functionality. In Creatio, we have some programs implemented as images and to be started as containers. And the advantage is that there are a lot of settings which can successfully run regardless of your physical environment. So one of the reasons of containerizing is to abstract from physical environment. Here you can see environments include Linux, but I'm running Docker Desktop for Windows and it will run quite well for me. So now you will see it. Let's start. So I already installed my Docker and Docker Compose as part of Docker Desktop. Then installing of Elasticsearch. It took me a while, and when I tried to install this, I need to tell you, so we will not be able to start this installation until we do some special settings. Unfortunately, such setting is shown somewhere at the top, so you may just overlook it. So you need special access from Creatio to be able to get all the latest global search service settings and just generally to get access to its repository. It was my first obstacle which I faced during installation. I tried to note everything which is worthy for you. So originally I tried to do necessary installation steps and I got this error. So no credentials, and the solution is, as it was said here, we have to contact support team, Creatio support team at support.creatio.com. So you have to write an email and you should say, hey guys, I'm your customer, I'm your partner, or I'm your colleague. Please provide me credentials to operate with registry and to be able to set up global search and duplicate search. Support team already knows about this, and they will respond you with some kind of email where you will get necessary login and password. Such login and password are credentials to get access to a certain part of registry where global search service images are saved. And you can register such credentials with Docker login command. You can do this in your any kind of command bars, and currently I'm, for example, running it in my farm manager app, but you can run it in any CMD. So it should include Docker, login, then, okay, let me show you. You should do something, sorry. You should do something like this. Docker, login, then you have the URL. U for username, you will get correct value here, of course, and then P for password. I made it for my own. I had to communicate with support team. They responded. They provided me such credentials. I do not disclose them because of security considerations. You will also receive your own secure settings and you will be able to run this command. I already made it with my own. So I already made all this stuff, and my settings, my Docker already knows about my credentials. So this was my first obstacle, which is not obvious, and it was required to install global search service. So I could install Elasticsearch easily, but global search then failed. So you have to perform this step. Okay, let's imagine you made this. What else? What else you may face? My second obstacle with installation, if I do everything according to the manual, so let's go back to the manual. So when I installed Elasticsearch, I had almost no issues, but then I tried to install global search tools and I found some issues with ports. So let me explain what is the right procedure that you can follow. It turns out that so you can just get installation file. So this is archive file that you can download. You can get zip file and download it. I already made it. And finally, this file is here on disk. So it's one single archive, which includes Elasticsearch setup and global search services setup. I unpacked it to my local folder, this one. And here is Elasticsearch part, and here is global search part. I slightly renamed folders just to make my container names look good. And what you need to do right now, according to the manual, you just need to run the command docker compose upd, and it will use default folder that you work with, so current working copy, current folder, and it will use your settings. First, we will do Elasticsearch setup and then global search setup. And there are some additional notes that you need to know about this. And this note is about ports. So I faced significant obstacle with port settings. And initially when I tried to do this, it was like ports were not available. After searching for this solution, I found out this is an issue with Windows and we need to, there are several ways of do this. I found simple way to fix it. So first you have to make net stop winnut. So the command which will temporarily stop some Windows service which allocates ports, and it's quite high, like big range of ports are allocated by operating system. So it's like taking it for its own use and like reserving such ports, and which makes it not possible to use same ports by Docker. And then after installing of necessary software, we need to run net start winnut in order to fix it again. Okay, so let me show you practically how we can do this. When you install Elasticsearch, there is only one setting here, but we should not change this. So installation of this Elasticsearch should include command net stop winnut, then docker compose upd. So let me try to show it for you, and let me show you what will happen in your containers in your Docker. So we go to the folder, so to the unpacked stuff of the zip archive, and we go to Elasticsearch, no parameters, and we do net stop winnut. This command stops NUT driver service, and then we do second command, which is docker compose upd. But of course, we need to put our current folder here. So we have to run this command from this part. Docker compose upd. It will install and run Elasticsearch image and container. So now you see it is running quick and some changes happened here. So now you see Elasticsearch was displayed as a running container in my Docker desktop. This is very good. We have no errors, and we probably can do the next step with installation of our global search service, and only then at the end we will start winnut. So let me show you what next. What happens next? According to the menu, so after running of this global search, Elasticsearch tool, we can run docker logs ES01, which is our service name. Let me show you, ES01. So you can try to run this command just to diagnose this. As you can see, a lot of info messages. Looks like we have no any significant warnings or errors. So no significant errors at all. It looks like our Elasticsearch started normally. Great. Nice to see it. So next we will do settings for global search services. Let's go back to the menu. Before running global search service installation, you need to understand one simple idea. We have to modify container variables before we start global search service. And you need to know where such container variables are. So we go to this second folder. I slightly renamed it. Originally it was services, slightly renamed just to have a good container name. Inside of it, we have YAML file, which is set of settings for different images that will be used to work and to run in our container. So a lot of things here. It was written by Creatio developers. You should not change here anything unless you really know what you need to do. And we have env file, which includes settings that we must change. It was also a bit challenging for me because some values are not very obvious, and it's quite questionable how you can do this. So I also had this next obstacle with providing good address. So you have a setting global search, so GS URL. Here is the web URL for our installed Elasticsearch. And this URL, of course, completely is not working. So we need to replace this part with some network name of a machine where Elasticsearch is running. And if it's a local host, you just cannot use localhost value. You must use special expression that is used inside of Docker, host.docker.internal. This was my first change that I did here in env host docker internal. And my second change was current server IP. It's also related to inner Docker network settings. So you cannot use localhost there. Instead of this, you need to use gateway Docker internal. I found this information from inner Creatio documentation. It looks like you will not be able to find it here. So you see in this documentation, there's something that will not work. Inside of inner Creatio documentation, I found this example, and also I found this example, so we will need to replace it with gateway Docker internal. So we only changed two settings, GSES URL, this one, and current server IP, this one. I had to do this, and before I did it, of course, I had incorrect behavior, and this is already correct settings that you need to do. Okay, so you have to change this before you do next step. Next step is also Docker compose upd for global search. And let's try to do this. Docker compose, sorry. D means detached, so it will start and continue running in background. We need to select this current folder and run this command. So now you see it will start quite quickly. First time I did it, it took several minutes to start because it was downloading a lot of images, it was showing progress, and it's okay. So you will see this, you will also notice the same, but finally it should finish with all green, everything was started normally. You can check it out in your Docker desktop app. Now you see all this stuff was running. All this stuff seems to work good, no any troubles. Very good. At the end, we need to enable NAT service. So NAT start the NAT. Let's do this. Now you see this NAT driver service started normally, so it continues to operate normally in Windows and operate with its ports. And NAT stop and NAT start was important to make this successful. Initially, I had an obstacle with it. So now it looks like we successfully ran our components, and it's time to think of next steps. It's possible to check some logs of global search service according to. So you see it's important that UTC time on your machine with Docker must be very close to UTC time on Creatio database server. If you have different machines for your Docker and for your Creatio database, then you should make sure that such connection, such time is very close. Okay, we can check. Now you see we already started this, so we can check if it was started correctly. We can just copy this command from the manual, try to run it here. So you see some information about use of ports, use of app, and it looks like everything is working more or less correctly. So all systems are up, and we can move on to the next step. If you want, you can also run this command to see some logs. Let's try to do this. It will be so you see that we started to get some incorrect manual settings because GS worker is absent in our list of containers. Instead of this, we have GS worker 01. Okay, we can fix this. So it's just a simple issue with documentation, but now you see we can run it. And what else? It looks like we have some message here. Start worker failed something and target invocation. Probably we're not able to get logs now. But it looks like in general our app is running. So let's see our container. It looks like everything is running. Nothing tells us there's something wrong right now. So we can continue and we can try to move on. Probably here this is a bit old documentation for us, and some documentation may be outdated. Okay, so now we think that our global search service and Elasticsearch is started normally. So now it will be a bit challenging part for us because we need to make special settings to set up our Creatio. So we have Creatio app separately from global search, and we need to do setup of our Creatio app for this global search service. This can be done with two different queries, and as you can see here, instruction, this manual supposes to use curl app. I prefer to use Postman instead. And Postman will be much easier for us because it's very graphically friendly, and we will see all the queries here. So let me explain what we are supposed to do right now. We need to run first query that will register our Creatio website in global search. So this registering will be done with the post query, and we have examples of how we can do this. So we need to use this URL for our global search, and we need to provide our Creatio website name here. Also, we need to provide database connection string for doing this. So let me show you how you can do this in Postman. Here is my new Postman. I already made some examples. So my global search address, as you can see, is instead of this server IP address, I use localhost because from my non-virtualized environment, I will use just localhost for this. So this is my URL, localhost 81. Then sites, then you have to provide your Creatio website name. We can call it my local Creatio, for example. This is just my example. And I need to provide request body. This is a post query. So I have to provide request body, which will include type of the database and which will include connection to Creatio database. So this is very important setting because this is place where global search will connect to Creatio database, and it will gather information from the database and it will index it. So this is important setting. I already made a lot of attempts. I had one more additional obstacle here, additional difficulty, and this is server name. So it turns out that you cannot use localhost here, but you can use some IP addresses, and if you want to use the same localhost that will be running if you run your SQL Server database like I do on my own PC here, so instead of localhost, you have to use special name host.docker.internal. host docker internal. It took me some time to realize this. I had to consult with our colleagues, and unfortunately it's totally not clear from the documentation. And here network server name may also work for you. Okay, so this is server name. Database is your database name. In my case, I made some examples. So in my case, it will be d2.test. D2 it's underscore test. Okay, let's try to do this. Database. Okay, then user ID. I already made some special setting for this database management. D2 will be my login and it will be similar password. So it's credential to connect to the database. And I will use such credentials. As you can see, my local environment is not too much of secure, and I would just use D2 login, D2 as password. I had this. Connection timeout originally was set to 10. I had so many different attempts to test, and finally I found out that 4 seconds will be totally enough to make checks of this connection. So this is my query. I will try to register my local Creatio. It's like name of my website. And let's try to run this post query in Postman instead of curl. So this post query, let's try to run it. It looks like my local Creatio website was registered successfully. So we successfully registered our Creatio database, and this is our first place where we have any connection between our containerized global search service and our Creatio environment. So it has connection to the database, and it means that if you run global search somewhere locally, you have to run your database server somewhere locally, and it must be technically possible to connect between them using network. Okay, this setting is done and seems to be good. Next step is execute query to connect search to the Creatio website, to connect global search service to Creatio website. This is also important step, and it's also one more post query. Now we have different address, so we have the same localhost sites. We need to specify our website name and /search. I already made this URL for you, so we can put localhost here, localhost 81 sites. Our Creatio website, we register it as my local Creatio. Okay, here, my local Creatio search, and it must be post query, and its body must include template name. The template name is setting which represents the way how search will work. Default JSON is something like the most commonly used, and it provides quite good speed. There are different other templates. You can decide yourself what is better for you, and trying to keep it simple. And this is just default JSON search. So I will set up this setting according to the manual with a post query using this kind of address. So my example of address looks like this. This is my global search main part. My local Creatio is name of the website, which I registered at the previous step. Search is method, and we have template name, and we also have one header, content type, application JSON, fully according to this. So this step is very important. When we run it, our result is 200, which means okay. And as you can see, we now have this important URL, especially this part will work for us as a kind of unique URL address of global search service for our current Creatio database, for our current Creatio website. Actually, Global Search Service that is not interested in Creatio website. Global Search Service exposes its own API and has direct connection to the Creatio database. So now it looks like it's almost over with setup of Global Search. And then we need to move on with settings in Creatio for it. There are three features that we must enable, and you can see that here is some code which includes enabling of such features and providing access for it. And I prefer to make this in more simplified way than running SQL scripts. Let me show you how we can do this. We have a running Creatio application. We can compose special URL 0 features in order to run features tab of our system. Feature toggling management. Please note this functionality is a kind of experimental. So this page cannot be easily accessed by some kind of button. So you only can go there if you know how to get to this URL. Let me just repeat it for you. So your web server address /0/features. This is how you can get to the features page. In general, feature is experimental setting, which is designed in Creatio and can be enabled or disabled. The reason of it is when developers need to develop something which takes a long time, they can create such feature. They can enable it only at developer environment. And to the test and production, this feature goes with disabled state. Their program code that developers do will check feature state. If it's disabled, this program code will just do nothing. And if enabled, this program code will do useful work. That's how some unfinished code can easily come to production without being activated. And if you activate it, then this code will start to work fully. So feature toggling is used to enable and disable such experimental things. In our case, we have three features that we must check. Let's go and check. Global search related entity indexing is one of the features which we check, and it may not exist here. Let's check. Yes, it doesn't exist. In case a feature was not found at all, as I do now, I can simply create it with code, enable it, save, and also just for sure, we can add all employees and save such settings. So we enabled this feature for all employees. Let's check. Feature, global search related entity indexing enabled for all users. Great. So feature number 1 was added. Global search feature, let's search another. Global search feature is here, and it looks like it's enabled already. Good. Global search v2, let's search for this one. This is enabled for all employees, as you can see. So let's search global search v2. Absent. Okay, we can create it. So if feature is absent, it means that it's not enabled, definitely. So we can easily enable it. All employees save. And now you see we can check global search v2 is enabled for everyone. Okay. And the last one, okay, we have three features. We can check again if we just search for global search with two entity indexing. It looks like everything is enabled. Check one more time just to make sure everything is enabled. Okay, great. And also, manual tells us that we need to, so this code is checking these features. If it's present, it will enable it. If it's not present, it will create it. So you just skip it and you can do it in graphical user interface. Now we need to modify some system settings. Global search URL is one of the most important setting, and here probably it will be not clear what is index name. So let me show you how we can find and set it. You go to Studio, System Settings, System Settings. Let's go to search for by code, of course, global search URL address. It's empty, and we need to combine and construct here some address. So HTTP, probably localhost 83, let's put it there. Then index name. Okay, let me put correct address. Localhost, because I'm running it locally on my own, and this query will be routed to Docker inside of Docker desktop. The next part is index name. Let's go back to our Postman. As you see, we can use this index name. This is our index name. We should carefully copy it and put it here. This is not obvious, and it also took time for me to set it up. Okay, we save this system setting. It's cached. Okay, so it looks like this is correct. Global search config service URL. Of course, no colon sign should be used, so we can only copy code and search for this code. Okay, maybe global search config service URL. Global search config service URL. Here we have to provide corresponding setting. So the port 81. So localhost 81. That's how we do this. And it looks like no any settings. And indexing API URL, global search indexing API URL. This one is port 82. Okay, put this value, port 82. I made it all by default. Okay, so we finished this, and you see it's possible to update system settings from your database, but it's not really necessary. And we have to restart Creatio, flash Redis, and log into the application. So let's try to do this. We can just log out. I'm not sure I installed maintenance tools here. So to make a restart. Okay, I will quickly show you how to do this. Application Hub, new application, marketplace powered, maintenance tools for Creatio. This one. It's just to make it easy to restart my system. Okay, just a piece of marketplace. Come in here. This is necessary to make a restart. If you log out and log in to your system, it may be not enough to perform correct restart. Okay, I got it. So marketplace tool was successfully installed. Let me show you what happens after this installation. Now I'm able to restart my application. So clear Redis. Okay, let's do it according to the manual. Restart application. Let's do it according to the manual. We were logged out, kicked out, probably because of clear and Redis. So now my environment should be ready for this. And it looks like I'm almost done with global search. So my setup is over. Only 44 minutes. And let's try to do something. Let's try to make this search. And by default, it definitely should search contacts or accounts. So we can try to search something like account. And as you can see, our global search worked successfully. So it searches and finds corresponding data, and I even did not expect that it will work so well here. So you see it works, and it performs a search. So if we search for something like baker, it will find contact baker, it will find account with connected contact baker. So everything looks very, very good here. And it looks like our search is fully successful. If you create new records, it will do also well for you. So good results. I did not even expect that it will be so good, because previously when I tried to do this at one of previous environments, I had more issues. And I need to show you some ways how you can detect that something is wrong. Let me show you. In Postman, we have this URL for post query. And I found out from inner documentation, so you can run this URL for get query. And if you do like this, local search, my local creation page is not working. No, let me check. We have a global search frequently asked questions. So we can find search state. Yes, search/state. This is how you can debug what's going on here. And you see that here Creatio tells us that we still have something wrong. And it's surprising because it obviously looks like our environment is working good and it performs global search results. So possibly this connection error is probably not true, because our global search actually works. So that's nice. And if you will get into trouble, so I already explained all of the troubles I faced. Let me show it for you. And it looks like our setup is fully successful for global search. So we already finished this. I had some issues with database connection string, so I thought it was not so correct, but it looks now for this database, for this environment, we are really, really happy with all the installation. Let me show you. If I add new data, like something like Samsung company, then I tried to use local search, nothing search, and Samsung is searched. You can manage a lot of settings according to global search using Creatio documentation, but now it looks like it is capable to find some data for you. Of course, if you have more data records, it will work and you will see that it works well. If you have some additional troubles that you did not see today, and so you can go into this video, I hope will help you. So of course you will watch it later when you do real setup. I hope this video will be helpful for you. So I had many different issues related to network connection issues for connecting to the database. It took me also a couple of days to fight with these errors, and if you get the same, you should review this. The key part of it is this database connection string. So this example works well for me, but it didn't work from the beginning, so you probably should try several attempts, and I'm really lucky that today this is working, and obviously our global search service works well. Also, you can debug what's going on in your network. For example, I'm searching for Andrew. You can see how search is performed. You can see that we have a request for global search Creatio service, which finally runs global search containerized service, so it makes corresponding API calls. We have payload of what we are searching. We have response, what we got. Let's see, pretty printed. Okay, this is our pretty printed response, and we see some data related to data record related to contact we found. And you see this is our contact, Andrew Baker, which was found according to global search. Okay, let's go. And we have a couple of minutes today, so let's also do, on the wave of this success, we can also set up bulk duplicate search. Another tool which is also connected with containerized components, and it requires global search to be installed. So bulk duplicate search is a tool that helps to find similar contacts and similar accounts, and then you can locate them, you can merge them, so you can do something with them. It's useful for big databases where the quality of your data is not perfect, and you can search. We have option for installing in Kubernetes or in Docker. So, as you may guess, I plan to use Docker. We need to install global search. This is already done and it works. Nice. And then we need to install bulk duplicate search. We need to download files for it. This is a zip archive file. So you can see it's downloaded, and I already have it on my disk. Here in downloads. So this is a zip archive file, and I already have one copy. So I unpacked it to my local folder, the duplication Docker Compose. It includes the duplication. So I renamed, instead of compose, I renamed the duplication just to see good container name. If interested, you can see Apache license. You can see some not so useful README, but the most important, of course, is this. So we have a setting for YAML. This is YAML file, which is set of settings for our Docker Compose utility, which will download and run necessary images that are used for Creatio, the duplication service. So the way how we can start it is usual. Docker compose upd, but before this, we must update one single setting. So before doing this, so you download your file, you unpack this file in any folder on your disk. Then you go inside, maybe you can rename this folder into deduplication, but then you go to env file, and the only setting that you should change, this is Elasticsearch URI. In my case, it's host Docker internal, because this is kind of local host inside of Docker network. Our documentation says that you must use something like user password and then Elasticsearch URL and its default port. If you are not using name and password, in our standard global search settings, we did not use credentials here, so you have to specify only your Elasticsearch host server name. In my case, I had to do this with host docker internal. That works for me. And then you just docker compose upd. So it looks like it will be normally loading. Maybe we also need to net stop and then net start win not. Let's try to do this. It will be safer if you have any kind of issues with port. So it's better to disable Windows reserving of port numbers and then to do this command. Okay, so let's try to do this. My default folder is this. It's very important. Net stop win not. Docker compose upd, which will set up and start all necessary components. Now you will see the duplication container started with a lot of items inside of it, including MongoDB, including its own its own data service, the duplication service, task worker, cleaner, and a lot of other things that are working. So you see they are working, they consume memory. It's a lot. I need to say that it's a lot memory. And it looks like everything is running with our deduplication service. So, okay, looks good. Don't forget to net start when not back. Okay, and what else in our documentation here? Verify that it started successfully. So we can just copy this command to see some logs. Not sure that it will work for us, but let's try. So it looks like some ports and everything is up. Okay, looks good. So it looks like our check was successful, status is up, means working. We can try to check logs, and I'm not sure that it will also work for us because we don't have any error logs so far. And also you can find logs using Docker container tool. So we can go here and you can see, so you can go to see some logs, you can see some technical information about it just from Docker desktop user interface. So if interested, you can get this information. Okay, let's hurry up with this setting. So we have to perform some settings in our Creatio. We don't need to update duplicate search because we are already working with the version 3, or even, let's check. Yes, it's version 3.012. Okay, so we don't need to do any kind of upgrades, and enable this functionality in Creatio. As usual, we go to configure it with features and with some of system settings. So let's do and follow all this step. The duplication service API address, this one, or okay, let's go and search by code. We go to our Creatio, we go to our studio and system settings. We need to search by code, found it, open. Initially it's empty value. So what manual supposes us to work with? Localhost 8086. Let's try. I'm not sure because I need to check my ports. Yes, 8086. Yes, it's okay. Okay, our manual is correct. So we need to use this local host because I'm running everything at my own, and from my normal network, not containerized, we have local host name for this. It's cached. Okay, we save it. Okay, looks good. Then we need to check operation permissions. By default, it's already enabled, but we need to check. Let's go there. Settings, operation permissions. Duplicate search. Okay. Duplicate search. Permission is set for system administrators. Okay, it's kind of technical thing. So for me, it will be enabled. Great. Nothing changes. And features, functionality. So we need to set up Creatio features again. Let's go to features tab, maybe reload it just to make sure everything works well. And we need to find the duplication feature. If it is absent, it's okay, no problem. So the duplication is present. So we can just enable it. Also, let's check, we need to enable for all employees, save, close, check it. Enabled, all employees, great, looks good. Then ES deduplication. It looks like it's absent. Okay, we can create ES deduplication, create new code, enable it, system administrators, enable it, save, close, check. enabled, close. Great. So it will be a function for administrators. So that's why we do not allow it to run for everyone. Bulk ES deduplication. Check it. Absent. Create. Bulk ES. System administrators. Save, close, check. It's important to check. You see a lot of editable lists there, so we must check if it was saved correctly. Okay, 3 features are enabled, and all this code is for creating them or updating them. So restart, clear Redis, restart Creatio app, and log in. Let's try to do this. We already have tool for this. So clear Redis, restart app. It kicked out probably as a result of clearing Redis. As you can see, a bit unusual behavior. Okay, let's try to run. Looks good. Now we will check how it works, and this deduplication will be present here in settings. We go to system setup, setup duplicates rules. You see set of rules. And for example, we can duplicate searching contacts by name. So we can compose situation where we have different contacts with very similar names. For example, we can create copy of Andrew Baker and just save it. So we have one more Andrew Baker. And we can try to find such duplicates. Let me try to do this. Search duplicates, search by contact. This rule is active. Show duplicate contacts. Not found. Run search is running. We have information. We will see information when this search will be finished. It takes some time. So we may find, let me try to make more obvious examples like Samsung. So I would try to add one more Samsung company and try to search accounts by name and duplicates by name. So it looks like I have no information here. Show notifications. Okay, why not? So let's go to settings. Now you see duplicate rows, account by name. You can also set automatic duplicate search according to some schedule. For example, on Saturday and Sunday at 4 a.m. it will run for contacts, and Saturday and Sunday at 4 a.m. it will run duplicate search for accounts. Apply settings, it will submit scheduled task to run this search. And now I will try to find accounts by name, duplicates, search, show duplicate accounts. It did not find it, probably later. And the duplication task was completed for contacts. Yes. Now you see it just takes some time. The duplication for contacts was ready and it found me similar contacts. So you can see that we can do something with them. So we can merge such records if necessary. So this duplicate search seems to work. And we can also try to find some accounts. Find account duplicates. It found it by name. So you see it takes a bit time, but now it looks like everything today works smooth, and we successfully installed global search. We successfully used the bulk duplicate search, and it looks like our task is almost done. I hope this session is interesting for you. I hope my experience with passing so many obstacles during this setup. As you can see, I make my own notes with different mistakes, and finally I found out the way how it can work normally. So I hope this video will work well for you, and you will not suffer as I did for several days preparing for this. So Thank you very much for your time. Our session is over. We successfully installed global search and duplicate search, and this video may help for anyone who wants to do it with Docker on Creatio on site. Thank you very much. Stay safe and goodbye.